Good afternoon, I am Dr. Ajay Yadav. Today we will discuss about the gastrointestinal stromal tumor, that is GIST. So GIST accounts for less than 1% of GI malignancies, and this is the most common mesenchymal neoplasm of GI tract. Men and women are equally affected, and the median age at presentation is around 60 years. So most of the cases are sporadic, and in some cases it can be due to familial syndromes including neurofibromatosis, Carney-Stokes syndrome. And these are the several syndromes associated with GIST. Location: the most common site of GIST is stomach. Around 50% of cases are diagnosed in stomach. Other important sites are small intestine, colon, rectum, esophagus, and 10% cases are present in extraintestinal location. So what are the clinical features? Clinical features depends on the site of disease. Patient usually present with abdominal mass, pain abdomen, abdominal distension or intestinal obstruction. 30% of cases are asymptomatic. How we diagnosed? After biopsy, on pathological examination, most commonly involved muscularis propria. Ulceration is present in around 50% cases. The tumor is usually well circumscribed, and cut surface shows fibrous tan to gray color, and spindle cell type is the most common type. So this is the histological slide you can see. So after histopathological, we need IHC for confirmation of the disease, and the specific marker for GIST is KIT. And these are the mutations exon 11 and exon 9 present in the GIST. One important mutation is in PDGFRA, that is present in around 5% of cases. Some cases are SDH deficient, and these are resistant to the TKIs. So after the confirmation of diagnosis, we do the staging by CT scan or PET scan. The prognosis of disease depends on the mitotic count, size of tumor, site of tumor, and during surgery if there is rupture or not. So now coming to the treatment of GIST. So majority of cases are diagnosed in early stage, and these patients are treated with surgery. Surgical resection is the treatment of choice. So we need a complete en bloc removal of GIST, and the final goal is to complete tumor resection with a negative margin including the pseudo capsule. We should avoid the rupture of tumor during surgery, and the lymphadenectomy is usually not done in case of GIST. If there are positive resection margins, we need to repeat the surgery for complete resection. So the surgery depends on the site of disease. In esophagus, we need esophagectomy, esophageal sparing wide location. In the stomach, small vase resection and large subtotal or total gastrectomy depending on the size of the tumor. Small intestine segmental resection is done, in colorectum colectomy, or in rectum anterior resection or abdominoperitoneal resection, as we do in the adenocarcinoma of colon or rectum. So about adjuvant treatment, who need adjuvant treatment, what are the options for adjuvant treatment, and what is the optimum duration of therapy, we will discuss in next slides. First, we estimate the risk of recurrence after histopathological examination, and it depends on the tumor size, mitotic rate, location, and rupture of the tumor during surgery. So these are high risk group having tumor size of more than 10 centimeter, mitotic rate more than 10 per 50 HPF, tumor size of more than 5 centimeter, and mitotic rate more than 5, or ruptured GIST if capsule is ruptured. So in these high risk patients, we need adjuvant treatment in the form of TKI. So what TKIs are available for treatment of adjuvant GIST. These are imatinib, sunitinib, regorafenib. First we will discuss about imatinib. Imatinib is a molecule that was first approved for GIST in FDA in 2008. In January 2012, FDA extended the approval duration of use from 1 year to 3 years, and this is the standard of care. Now the recommendation is to use the adjuvant imatinib for 3 years in patients of GIST after surgery. And this is because the survival when we give for 3 years is more in comparison to when we give it for 1 year. So imatinib has highest activity in GIST that contain the mutation in exon 11 of c-KIT, and if it is exon 9, then the response is less. And most GIST with the PDGFR gene mutation respond, with a notable exception of D842. In patients having D842V mutation, they are imatinib resistant, and we need to use other TKI for this subgroup of patients. So here you can see the response rate with the different mutations. With the exon 11, the response rate is maximum patients achieved CR or PR in patient having exon 11 mutation, and it was less in patients having exon 9 and PDGFR. So this curve shows overall survival in patients who were treated with imatinib. So the problem is that sometimes after giving imatinib, patients have progressive disease and have metastatic disease. In those cases, we have to use second line treatment. And what are the options for second line treatment? It depends on the resistance of tumor. If it is primary resistance, or it can be secondary resistance. In primary, the already mutation is there. In secondary resistant, where the patient initially responded, but later on the response was not there to the TKI. So, is there any role of TKI in neoadjuvant treatment? Yes, we usually, when the tumor is unresectable and surgeon refer to us for neoadjuvant treatment, we start patient on imatinib, and it has to give for around 6 months for in neoadjuvant form. When the tumor become resectable, we go for surgery, and we use imatinib in adjuvant setting for around 3 years. Now we talk about metastatic disease. If patient is having advanced disease, we have to use TKI only, no role of surgery. And the NCCN recommends continue to use imatinib till progression or intolerable toxicity. If a patient has progressive disease after imatinib, then we have options of using sunitinib or regorafenib. Sunitinib was first approved in 2006 for this indication, and the recommended dose of sunitinib is 50 mg per day for 4 weeks on and 2 weeks off. Next TKI is regorafenib. This was approved in February 2013, and the median PFS in this trial was 4.8 months for regorafenib and 0.9 months for the placebo. And the dose used was 160 mg per oral daily. So now we discuss about the adverse effects of TKI. The adverse effects of imatinib are well known, and these are edema, rash, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, and fatigue. Myelosuppression is rarely seen in some patients, but it can severe in less than 1% of cases. The treatment interruption or dose reduction may be necessary in patients who develop severe hepatotoxicity or myelosuppression. These are adverse effects of sunitinib: hypertension, yellowish discoloration of skin, and myelosuppression. Regorafenib, hypertension is the most common side effect of regorafenib. Others are skin toxicity, bleeding complications, and hepatotoxicity. These are the CHOI criteria for response assessment. So to summarize, this is a rare but most common mesenchymal neoplasm. It can occur anywhere in the GI tract, including from esophagus to rectum. The clinical presentation varies. It may range from GI bleeding, abdominal discomfort. The treatment of choice is surgery in patients who have potentially resectable disease, and it is curative in majority of patients. TKI improve the survival in advanced and metastatic disease. Thank you.